Hi, and welcome back to Reframe and Reclaim. I'm Courtney Huckabee,
And I'm Jen Harris.
and we are off enjoying some of our summer, as we hope you are too. But as we're away, we wanted to review some of our history as we are getting ready for the United States of America 250th anniversary.
She's looking pretty good for 250.
Ah, she was pretty good. So we wanted to replay one of our episodes about life changes and honoring our past, but also embracing our future and current life. It's a very challenging topic for all of us because change is hard.
Yes, yes.
But we wanted to review this because we know all of us will eventually experience this change in life, whether it's a life transition from living at home as a young adult to off on your own independently, changes in relationships, changes in careers,
Mhm.
or unfortunately, death loss that we all will experience at some time.
Yes, and this is a great time, I think, to talk about this transitions. The history of America has had ups and downs and has been full of transitions and changes. And so this is a way to honor that while reflecting on our own lives and how our lives change. So we hope you enjoy our episode. We'll be back soon with new information and topics. And hope you just have a great summer with your family.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. Bye.
Welcome to Reframe and Reclaim. We are Courtney Huckabee, a psychotherapist,
and Jen Harris, an interior designer who have teamed up
to reflect,
challenge,
and reframe your mindset in relationship with your personal belongings.
Join us as we discuss and declutter all of the stuff that keeps us stuck.
Learn to intentionally create environments with improved function and design that cultivate peace of mind. Find the reframe.
Start your reclaim.
Welcome back to Reframe and Reclaim. I am Courtney Huckabee.
And I'm Jen Harris.
And today we're here to talk about life chapters. As we were writing our book, we were working with many different clients who volunteered to try out our tried and true 7-step process. And one of the really interesting things that we saw is there's a lot of transitions and life transitions. And so we want to talk today about some of the challenges with life transitions and also how to make sure that we have our space that reflects our new identities and our life path along the way.
Yes, and I think that is one thing I know I have struggled with in my lifetime because that is life, right? Life is one big transition and you're always growing, always moving, always changing, even though you may not feel it, but you are. And so it's like, how do you always adapt and stay flexible with those changes?
I know. And as we know in life, life is always evolving. Sometimes life chapters are a little bit longer than others, but I know for some of our clients, it's like that chapter of childhood, like that infancy, as you have this new baby that comes home, and them growing up. That's kind of where I'm at in my motherhood life chapter. Is I no longer have a baby; I have a big boy, and so still being able to have the sentiment of that little baby that I love, but also allowing him to have his own identity, having opinions about the clothes he wears, having his opinions about how his room looks or the toys he wants to play with. But also, we've talked about before, we can't always keep everything. So how do we cope with that? How do we adapt? And how do we make sure that our life transitions are healthy and helpful for our whole home?
Yes, and I think part of that is really being open, to other people's opinions in their space, because if I had my way, the aesthetic would be totally different than how my kids like their room to be,
definitely.
right? But I will say, so we're in the process of moving, and it has been interesting to see what my kids, because a lot of their decorations are still from when they were in their nursery, right?
Oh.
It hasn't changed a whole lot. Like, I mean, toys have grown up. Most of their artwork and stuff from the nursery was very not adult or sophisticated, but it wasn't necessarily nursery rhymes and baby specific decor. So it has grown with them pretty well. But it was interesting to see which pieces they really latched onto and wanted to keep, and which they were just like, no, it's okay, that's good to go. Like two pieces are these it's like this little boy and little girl that my husband actually had in his room when he was a baby. And so that's cool to see that go through the generations and stay
Yeah, we have
So
similar
there's
things in my child's room. There's some tapestry and some artwork that my husband had in his childhood bedroom. His mom was very sentimental, and I'm thankful for that because now we can, keep that in our child's room. But as he's getting bigger, the tapestry isn't as, cool or big boy. But we haven't transitioned from moving out of that room or changing his decor. So how are you managing that?
So yeah, I'm really giving them, because they're 6 and 8, almost 7 and 9 now. As they're going into this new space, I'm really letting them kind of lead the direction as far as colors and what it's going to look like. And my eldest son decided he's going to be my design assistant.
I love that.
And has started drawing up floor plans for his room in the house and what it's going to be. So that's been really fun and cute to see. So right now we're still in the design phase. So we're just keeping it open-ended, and I'm trying to show them, pictures of stuff on Pinterest, and here's things we could do, or here's how we can reimagine the space. Because they've only had their one room their entire lives. We brought them home to our last house, and we've been there. So I think it's going to be exciting for them to kind of build their own space. And, I've said before in the podcast how I've been really trying to work with my kids as far as their belongings and their sentimentality and being able to let go of their things. And doing that over the past several years, I found it extremely helpful with the move, because there was school artwork where it was like, this can go. I don't want this anymore. This piece I had before, do I want to move it? Nope. And so they were really able to make quick decisions.
Because you practiced that with them.
Yes, exactly. And get rid of things. And so as I was going through my stuff, so years ago, I made different bins where I store my sentimental things. So I have one bin that's childhood, one that's like high school, one that's college. And so I gave myself a physical boundary of like, it has to fit in this bin to keep it. And this is going to be my childhood memories. And it had been a while since I had looked in it, and I went back through it as before I was moving, and I was like, oh, I forgot about this. And I don't, like, there's a broken Care Bears bowl, which is super cute, but it's like, do I need it? No. And so I found a lot more items I was ready to let go of, or I was like, I can just take a picture and I can get rid of the thing. So again, the practice of it, they've been practicing, I've been practicing, so we've been able to transition.
And I think, in our book, as we, met with different clients, we had one client who was an adult. She had traveled as a single woman. She was married whenever we met with her, and she wanted to make sure her home decor also included like travels with her husband.
Yes.
And so, it's not always like getting rid of things, but it's also like, how do we display this that includes the people or the things that are important to me now that may not have been important before.
Yes.
And so I think it's really great whenever you think about, like, it's not always like a sad change. It's like a growing change or like a blossoming change.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Because again, we are always growing, always changing. And that's just life. So whether it's a move or a life transition, I know there's another client in the book, and I've helped other clients too who, are getting divorced or were coupled up and are now breaking up. And that can be a very difficult transition as well, right? And how much self-identity you put into the other person and that life you're building together. And then that's gone, but you still have these items that either relate to that person or, relate to that time in your life, and how are those serving you now? So how do you help your clients that come to see you whenever they are in those life transitions?
Everyone comes with different needs and different challenges. I really go client-led, just like our book. What do you want? How do you want to feel? What do you want people to see? How do you want to be seen by others? And it really is a process of, really seeing that as a chapter closed, or seeing it as a continuation of my story. But it can be really challenging, it's like, I don't want to let go of this. I don't want to forget that. And especially when it comes to like a death loss. I think that is one of the most difficult things for all of us, a grieving of an end of a relationship, a grieving of an end of whether it's a divorce or a death loss, or a pet loss.
Or even a job loss.
A job loss, right. And so we hear loss and we think that's no longer there. But I'm still here. And, what does that mean for me? And how can I, if it's a loved one that has died, how do I honor them? How do I remember them? And so we really do talk about those memories and those good things, but also like how they can continue to live or what they can continue to do to honor that person, and we've both been through that with our personal lives. But I do think it can be really challenging, if it's a divorce or a breakup or a job loss. So like so many people can find such identity, especially if it's, a career that you've had. One of our clients in the book, she had this career that she chose to step away from to be a mom, but she kept those things because that was part of her identity. But as we were going through some of her, decoration and artwork, those memories weren't so fond. It's like, I don't want to remember that. It brings heartache. So we get to decide what you want to do with that, and you get to choose, how to step forward and, let go of things or hold on to things.
And what advice do you give for people who are wanting to let go but feel that guilt because someone's passed, and if I get rid of this, I'm losing that memory, or that guilt of, I stayed in this relationship longer than I should have, but I really loved this person and I can't let go of this item.
It's so complex. What I will say, like we've talked about in the book before too, is, if there's an item that reminds you of a past chapter of life or a part of life that you're not quite ready to completely, let go of, let's put that away. And so let's, instead of it being so prominent, let's put it away in a box, or, let's kind of put that under the bed. Let's put that in the closet. Let's come back to that later. And again, we're coming back to that later. So I've had clients who've come in and, there's been death loss or relationship changes and loss or career changes. I've had clients come in and they're like, I thought I was going to be on this career path, but now that I'm in it, it's not what I want. And so I'm like, okay, this is your life. You get to decide what happens in this life. Do you want to stay on this career path and not be happy and satisfied and feel like I spent all this money for this education or this training, or, this is like who I've been. Well, how do we start to shift to finding a new hobby, or, using the skills you've learned in this to use in a different field, kind of reimagining how we can be who we are, but in a different lens.
And I like what you said about putting it away for a while. And I know we've talked about this before. And we found it's really helpful to give yourself a time frame.
Sure.
So whether it's 3 months or 6 months. And for me personally, just as I'm going through things, I'll put it away and come back to it. And that's giving me that mental note. So in the past, I'd put it in the garage and I would never look at it for 5 years. So then I'd be like, well, I can't get rid of it because I don't know what's in it. Right. And I have that fear of, I'm going to get rid of something that's important, even though I haven't touched this in 5 years and I have no idea what's in it. I could get rid of it and it might be fine, but that anxiety would keep the box in my garage. Whereas if I am making the effort to say, I know it is in this box, and I keep coming back to it, even if I'm not ready to get rid of it at that time, usually by 6 months or the most a year, I'm like, I've seen this. I've come back to it 2 to 3, 4 times, and I'm still not using it. I told myself I would, and I'm not.
Yep.
I still haven't opened it. I haven't missed it. And then it's like I finally have that relief and that like grace to give myself to be like, you can just let this go, and it's okay. You're going to be all right. Right?
I know. And it does feel like I may not be all right if I completely, let this go, discard this, donate this. A few weeks ago, we were going through my garage and trying to, again, find more efficient storage, fit a car in my garage, which I can now do.
Woohoo!
But I did find this big tub that was just filled with cookbooks.
Oh.
And I used to think, I'm going to make this recipe and I'm going to do that. And oh my gosh, I can't wait until I, use this, or maybe I'll make bread one day. I had a bread making thing, which I thought maybe one day I could.
Did you get it in 2020? Is that?
It was before 2020. I got it before
See,
2020.
so you had the optimal time to make your bread, and you never made the bread, so you know you're not going to use it.
The funny thing is, we now have digital ways to get those recipes. And in 2020 COVID, when everything was shut down, I was cooking a lot at home, but I wasn't going to those cookbooks because they were in my garage, stored away where I couldn't reach them. So I now got all of those out, and I was like the smoothie or the, low calorie or the, delicious and fancy foods. And I really was at the place of I can find these recipes digitally now.
Yes.
And I don't need that big tub. And now that big tub can store the kids' toys that we're not using right now. But again, it's getting reused and more efficient for what we have in our life chapter now, because I know that I can get a recipe online, and it's really easy. There's so many wonderful recipe websites and apps and things, and I've used those during, the lockdown and everything, and continue to. I have great cookie recipes that I continue to go to, and they're just saved on my phone.
Exactly, yeah. Something else I found, speaking of recipes, I have, again, sentimental, and for me, it's like collections and things too. And I would always feel like, well, if I took out this one recipe, then the book is ruined and I couldn't donate it to somebody because then it's not complete, right? And so I really had to reframe my mind where it's like, now I would just take a picture of it, right? And then I could pass it on. But I had to give myself permission to be like, it's okay to rip out a recipe and keep what you want.
Yes.
And then pass on the rest of it. Because the person you're giving it to may not have even wanted that recipe, or it might just be going to recycling. And so to me, I always had to, if I had something I wanted to donate, but it wasn't the full set, I needed to wait until I had the full set so I could donate it. But then it just sat in my donation pile for months, right? So I really had to give myself the permission, just let it go. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And I think, there's this idea of I might use this, or I did use this and this is important to me. Another thing that we came across in my garage is like all of my elementary school yearbooks, which I will never get rid of. I'm sorry. My husband had the best time going through and be like, oh my gosh, look what you looked like when you were 6. Look what you looked like when you were 8. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look what I look like. But I wanted to keep those for my little boy. And you know how they always do the comparison of me when I was 2, my kid when they're 2. But those are things that I won't get rid of, but I need to find a better place. And they're actually inside my home now on a bookshelf, and I can get them out anytime I want instead of stored in the hot garage. They were closed up in a bin, but still, there's spiders and dirt and all kinds of stuff out there.
And there can be high humidity, in Texas, and like my hair right now.
Welcome
to
summer.
Like my hair, right? Summer humidity. But yeah, I'm really happy you were able to take those things that you know you're going to enjoy and you're going to view later in life and keep those in air conditions, that way that is well preserved.
And and we've talked about with other clients, and ourselves, if something's really important and valuable to you, put it somewhere where you will see it. Put it in a place so you'll use it. Make sure it's not just being packed away. Now, if there's something that, we're going through a life transition and I'm not quite ready to get rid of the baby blanket that, so-and-so made for me, or, the cute little craft that my kid made when he was 6 months old and I don't know what it is, but it's like his first craft, then, put that away. We have some of those things in a filing cabinet in my husband's office, but put them away. And then when I come back to it later, I can say, okay, I've had it, I'll take a picture of it. Maybe I create some kind of digital file for that. But the hope is like you give yourself time, and you get to decide what that time frame is for you. There's no time frame you have to say, this is not part of my life, this is part of my life. And it's really nice sometimes to go on memory lane and say, oh, I loved this, but I have a space for it that's not going to overwhelm my space, it's not going to overwhelm me, and it will be preserved.
Yes. I kind of had that in the reverse, where it was, so I used to be a product designer and would design a lot of products that ended up in stores, a lot of seasonal decor. And I did a whole lot of candles and a whole lot of like Halloween and Christmas candle holders, which is all breakable glass, and so as soon as I had my children, I was like, I can't display like I used to. I can't have all my designs out. And so they have been boxed up for several years and well preserved and wrapped and everything. But I know it's taking up a large space, but I do know, like, once they are old enough to not just, go down the table and break it all. It will be coming back out. But it's interesting how I've boxed up some things knowing I'll bring it out later.
Sure.
And then other times it's, boxing up, stuff that we don't need now in this life chapter that we moved on from. So.
And I think that's so important to know is just because it's not this life chapter doesn't mean it has to leave your home. It just may need to be boxed away. It may need to be not as prominently displayed. It may be something that we, need to make a file for and know that it's there and I can get to it when I need it, but it doesn't have to be right in front of me, like on the kitchen table, in my closet. Just kind of staring back at me.
And even with that space, boxing stuff away, there are some designs where it was like, oh, I have to have this. And now I'm like, oh, no, I don't need that one. That doesn't mean as much to me. Mm-hmm. And so even though it's still boxed up, I have been able to still kind of get rid of some things that just aren't, again, part of this life chapter. So, or future.
Yeah. And we want to encourage you, as you're going through your life transitions, we've had clients go from, their childhood to now my adult. I used these things in childhood, the art supplies and things from our book. And now I'm doing more digital art, or I've, I've elevated my art and I'm not using this material anymore. I'm using that instead. I think it's really important to know that if you have something that you think someone else will use, it's really wonderful to let them explore those things and have that chance at exploring their own hobbies or identities. But it doesn't have to be something that has to completely leave your home. And so thinking about, whether it's a chapter of life where, for me, it was, I thought I was going to be an amazing home cook. And I'm a pretty good cook, but...
She makes excellent nachos, y'all.
Oh, my God. Yes.
Inside joke, sorry.
Inside joke. But my nachos are on point.
Yes.
But I do make recipes, but there's like a handful of recipes that are just my go-to that I've perfected, like those nachos or those cookies or those muffins or that, quiche or whatever it is. I don't have to have 15 books to let me know of like the hundreds of recipes that I probably never will get to.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would also encourage you, if you are in a life chapter where it's like you are downsizing, let's say you're retiring, you're moving to a smaller home, or you're moving just into another house, sometimes there is more of a pressure of like, I don't have a place to store this. I have to make a decision. And so, in case of those situations, I think it's great to have someone there with you. I think it's great to take pictures of things. That has been a great tool for me. And also having someone to take those items that you're feeling guilty about to the donation center. Like I found that was really helpful in my move. Like we would load up my mom's cart and then she would take it. So that way it was just done and gone. I had no say in it. It was done. And then I just had the good feeling of the open space. So, which was
and
really
someone
nice.
else will use that
Yes.
and appreciate it, and so there's lots of mixed emotions that come with transition, whether it's, your baby not being a baby anymore, or, going from one career to a next, or, a transition in homes. And so just be gentle with yourself and really trust yourself. But if you do need accountability, find a friend, find a family member, don't do it by yourself. And if you need help, we have a really great resource guide with our 7-step guide to reclaim your physical space by reframing your personal relationship with your belongings.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's available now in stores. You can get a downloaded version, an ebook, or audiobook if you enjoy the sound of our voices. We read it for you. So
we hope to hear from you soon. If you have any transitions in life that you want to mention, leave a comment for us.
Yes. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to us with Reframe and Reclaim at our podcast. If you are interested in more information about our book, you can find our book at any online retailer. You can also find us at reframe-reclaim.com.